going back to the topic of the day, as far as experience or feelings, another thing that I think is interesting as a way of providing some balance is that people also have feelings and certainties about other things. Like people will claim experiences that they're quite certain about, that they say will prove reincarnation or contact with aliens, right? Or past life regression, talking with spirits or dead people, paranormal. So, if we're going to say that feelings validate beliefs, it's not just our particular religious beliefs.
One of the nice things about having a conversation like this and about reading and learning about the relationship between emotions and belief formation is that you can come to a sense that your emotions aren't you; they are a part of you, right? And that your emotions, so that you can kind of say, I'm having this emotion, I'm having a feeling, what's it about, where is it from? Mariana, you talked about that fear of hell and how intense, cropping back up, or kind of this sense of it being real. And
well, no,
yet,
it wasn't the fear of hell, it was the story of Jesus itself.
Oh, okay. But just being able to kind of have, at the same time that maybe the child part of you is kind of caught up by that, there's another part of you that is simultaneously questioning it. The part of you that is almost like the amateur psychologist, if you will, right?
Yeah.
In your case, the part, kind of with some academic training, kind of being able to sort of put that on and say, what's going on here? I'm having an experience, rather than being completely lost in the experience. So when we know, by contrast, someone like the Apostle Paul on the Damascus Road probably had a temporal lobe seizure, but no ability to sort of subsequently remove from and say, and there was no self as observer who could then look at the experience and say, I had a temporal lobe seizure. It's just kind of, instead, it's kind of like, wow, I am this experience. And there's a difference between being the experience and observing the experience, and then having the experience be a part of you, or triggering questions, or being able to kind of take the experience and using it to generate hypotheses, or to kind of open up an inquiry process.
We've talked in this group about having a sense of kind of a multiple self that way. And that's okay, and that makes sense in some of the neuroscience that's going on in the notions of the modular brain. That there are different parts of your brain doing different things, and so you can kind of extend that into different aspects of your personality that are accomplishing different things. And so just even the framework that we use in terms of having a child and an adult, it's the child that can just react very emotionally and without much rational thought, and be reacting to ideas that were embedded when you were very young, and your brain was actually in a much different state of development, and memories were coded in a different code. So it's kind of hard to go in there and just change those memories and those thoughts that were taught to you at that time. And so feelings or situations can trigger those things. But that doesn't mean that another part of you, another more rational adult part of you, can't also be engaged and look at it and evaluate it and help that child part. So some of what we've tried to do is activate and develop the adult self, which is not necessarily very well developed if you grow up in as a Christian, because you're told to be born again, and what Spong said, that we don't need to be born again, we need to grow up. And I would say, yeah, we need to develop not just that dependent child, but that adult that can think in other ways. We're not just victims of whatever the authorities tell us our feelings mean. I mean, that's what's really at the heart of this, right? We have all these feelings, all these emotions and experiences, and then the dogma, the religious systems, these meme complexes, tell us what they mean.
That's right. Well, that is, and what's amazing and incredibly powerful about religion is, like, if you look at Christianity, kind of for 2,000 years, that set of explanations has been evolving. So, and I think of it as, it's Christianity is so powerful because of natural selection. Ironically, here they are spending all of their, putting so much energy, many Christians, into debunking and belittling the scientific method, in part because they hate the thought of natural selection having shaped our world. But if you think about Christianity itself having been shaped over 2,000 years by natural selection, it helps you to understand why the mechanisms of kind of the self-propagation of Christianity are so incredibly powerful. I can't make sense of it in any other way. Mm-hmm. That religions that land on things that work grow and expand, gain membership, get traction, and religion, kind of any kind of component of the religion that doesn't work kind of dies out. People, repeat a phrase that nobody it doesn't resonate, it doesn't get traction, kind of a belief system that just doesn't work to elicit powerful emotions. People don't show up on Sunday mornings, right? Mm-hmm. So, and one of the reasons I think American Christianity, it keeps growing and Christianity has stagnated in Europe, is because American evangelicalism is so innovative that they're in this rapid phase of evolution. They keep trying out all kinds of new things.
We have the football players and the cheerleaders,
Yeah, exactly.
We have this whole distilled sexual American ideal in evangelicalism. That's become very apparent to me in the last few weeks. I've been thinking and talking with my friends who are on their way out of church about that. It's uncanny.
The one thing that didn't take with me was the creationist stuff. I mean, I've always been like, well, look at the apes in the primate house. They look just like us, so how can we not be related? It never did. The creationism never did jive with me. Well, evolution was like, that makes sense. And there's a lot about science that makes more sense to me than some of these religious beliefs. And one of them is creationism. And they're like, well, how can you say there's not a God? Look at the sky, look at blah, blah, blah. Well, how can you say that the blue sky isn't created by various chemicals that make it look blue to us when actually it's,
A major point here is that the religious authorities interpret our experiences for us, and even to the point of, say you have these feelings of transcendence, you're out in the woods, or you're looking at a sunset, or you're having experiences that feel a certain way, and then or you're just looking at the beauty of nature, and then you get told that that's because it's God, or because things are beautiful and amazing, it's because there's an intelligent designer. And these interpretations are forced on you, for that's why you feel that way, and that's why it looks that way. And
I just wrote on that, and I mentioned the neurology of it, which makes a whole lot more sense after I studied it than God did it,
Yeah.
I mean,
so
and I just wrote on that very subject.
Yeah, I read that. That was excellent. Yeah, if anybody hasn't read the thing that Mariana wrote, to have a look. That was really good. All these the feelings that go into spirituality. What is that? And so, feelings don't necessarily prove anything like that. But in terms of the name of our group, release and reclaim your feelings and do your own interpreting, instead of just taking somebody else's interpretation of how you feel. What do you think about that, Valerie?
I'm sorry, ask it again.
I was just saying, our group is called Release and Reclaim. It's releasing old toxic ideas and reclaiming your own life and your own thoughts and feelings. And I'm saying that in terms of your own feelings, to reclaim your own feelings and your right to interpret them your own way, instead of just having somebody else in authority interpret your feelings.
Well, that was one of the things I actually appreciated way back at the beginning when Susie was talking about trying on the notion of not being a missionary, right? Even in a secular context. Susie, you're still with us?
Yep.
And kind of what it means to just kind of sit and be at peace in a conversation after having been kind of having this notion of you must be a missionary imposed on you for so long, and I also heard and kind of both Marlene and I reacted to the kind of competing value of your children and kind of caretaking them and kind of in the reality world, and yet it sounded, what I love is that kind of you are working on not living by my kind of where I'm at or by where Marlene's at, or where the kind of values that have been imposed on you and kind of the worldview that's been imposed on you for so long. It really is about trying to say, here's the emotion I'm experiencing, and I don't want to have someone else interpret it for me or tell me how to respond to it. I just want to be able to kind of sit and be at peace with myself.
A couple of people haven't said anything so far, and I'm wondering what Tim or Connie are thinking. Or would you like to say anything or ask anything?
Well, this is Tim George.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought this whole thing about feelings trapping you in a certain belief system, I totally agree with. And that's what had me hooked for a long time, because I would have certain feelings in church, and I think, I would think, okay, it must be true because I'm feeling this. So I really resonate with what Valerie and Marlene and other people are saying.
That's one thing I figured out real quick, thanks to, I was taking psychology as I was on my way out of the Episcopal Church, about the music, the incense and stuff, on how it stimulated the internal chemistry, because I was taking neurobiology, and it was like, it makes sense. And that the music and the incense and the candles and all that stuff would trigger that and give you, for want of a better word, numinous feelings. It has nothing to do with a God. It's just your internal chemistry. Did you follow me?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. And that's right. I mean, when you start understanding, when you think about it through that lens, you realize that a whole lot of experiences are scripted for that, to kind of elicit those numinous feelings, including, whether it's the kind of smoke and mirrors, the light show of a big megachurch, or whether it's the incense and candles of a traditional liturgical service, right? That in a different way, they each elicit powerful emotions that are intended, and then you are intended to attribute those emotions to the presence of God in the room.
Another thing, churches work on that primitive part of our brain that fears that a lion's going to be out there. And it kind of kicked thoughts in me about this fear that religion tries to put into people, because it works on that primitive part, except there's no lion out there to lose sleep over to begin with.
That's right. So we are wired, we are all wired, and some of us more so than others, wired to err on the side of anxiety, right? Our evolution didn't optimize for human happiness. It didn't optimize us for peace and for love. It optimized us for survival. And so what that means is that we are, kind of, survival means kind of, if you kind of skew things on the side of us being generally more anxious than would be, kind of, than is fun. That's kind of how we survive best. But in a situation that we're in now, where first of all the anxieties that have been pushed on us by religion are these kind of imaginary threats, right? The threat of, in particular, eternal damnation. Being wired for anxiety kind of stinks.
Well, thanks for that cheerer-upper.
But we do have real fears and anxieties of today, such as, the economy puts on us.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with a God. And a lot of people, because of such things, end up going back to religion. But the reality of it is the human system that we have set up has just collapsed. And, but we have reason to fear losing our shelter, our food and stuff in such an economy that human beings set up, but it has nothing to do with a God.
That's right.
I hope that came out right.
And there are some real threats here too. So when I look at the incredibly delicate dance that someone like Susie faces, where she is married to someone who's still pastoring, right, and trying to kind of maintain the balance of a marriage and co-parenting and her own journey and kind of reclaiming her independence and then also needing to kind of, there are threats there of, kind of in terms of the kind of what is the balance of kind of maintaining the health of herself and her children and the kind of social context. So there's threats that religion there are real threats that religion place in our lives as well. But I think in the kind of psychological recovery process, a lot of what we struggle with is the fact that the depression and anxiety that can make recovery really overwhelming. A lot have to do with the kind of dealing with the stuff that's internal to us, not the external threats. The external threats, mostly we all have the skill set and the kind of intellectual capacity to do what we need to do. It's the internal stuff, the kind of having to deal with the kind of all of the pastors that are now inside our head and the kind of church members and that are inside our head telling us we're bad people, and the kind of Bible writers who are inside our head, and kind of like their disapproval and their lectures and the kind of moral conflicts that they've created for us that don't have to be moral conflicts, like the idea that we're bad people when we have sex under most circumstances, and just a whole bunch of things that those are the things where they create anxiety and depression that don't have to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the monster talk. I have a comment, and then what I'd like to do is go around and start wrapping up. But one thing, just to follow up on what Valerie's saying there, yeah, when people leave religion and are in recovery, one thing that they're sometimes a little surprised about is that just dumping their religion doesn't solve everything. Because, for one thing, normal human beings have pretty big challenges and dilemmas anyway. And what religion does is that it gives you pseudo solutions to lots of big existential questions, and it gives you this big package deal. You know, you get answers to all these cosmic questions, meaning of life, answers to where we came from, where you're going to go, fire insurance after you die, and a whole big social support system, activities. You know, it gives you all these things in one big package deal and a one-stop shop where to go and get all these things. And then you lose that, and you also you dump all the bad things about it, and you're free, and so now you're going to go out and you're going to have a normal life, and you think things are going to be great, and then you find out that you have to face the existential dilemmas that everybody faces, which is you have to come to terms with mortality and being responsible for your life and issues of connection and intimacy with others and creating your own meaning in your life. All the dilemmas that people have been wrestling with for centuries and philosophers have been talking about, and so forth. In addition to getting a career and feeding your family and all of that, and health and whatever. And I mean, I had one person who had come out of a pre-rigid religion and saying how he missed having a group that he had things in common with. And I said, hold on, you're now in the human family. You have a lot in common with the rest of us. We have all these things we're all trying to figure out. We're sharing pretty big task here as a human family, and it's not necessarily easy. But at least we're all in the same boat and we can support each other. We're running out of time, and I wanted to give a big thank you to Valerie. These insights have been really great, and I really appreciate all of the work that you've done in this area. And those of you that haven't read her writings, to please take advantage and go back and read all these articles she's written about God's emotions, and her section in Trusting Doubt, and the articles that I have already put on the website, that the links there. And now what I'd like to do is just go around. If you can just take a few more minutes, let's go around again like we did at the beginning, and just end with saying something about our session today, and if there's anything you want to say to anybody in particular, but also what are you going to take away from this? What did you get out of this today? What was the highlight that you got out of it, and any kind of appreciation you want to express to Valerie? Okay, so does anybody want to say anything? Who would like to start?
This is Tim. I'm back.
Yay!
I had a major computer freeze when I was talking. I just really resonate with what you were saying today about how the feelings you get in fundamentalist Christianity, how a belief system gets piled on those feelings, and it's not proof of the religion. It's just a feeling, and that you can have those feelings in other ways, like a sense of community. One thing that really helped me was getting non-Christian friends. I mean, I really only had Christian friends when I left Christianity, and I was finding that people at work that weren't Christians, I was forming really good relationships with them, so I was able to replace that need that I got for church in other ways. So, just in short, I really appreciate the call, and I agreed with a lot of what you're saying.
Thank you.
This is Brianna, and I was very glad to have you here today, Valerie. It was nice to have both you and Marlene here together. It's not the same as in person, but it works. And I got quite a bit out of having you here today. I think I more than expressed my appreciation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Big group hug from all of us, Valerie.
Yes.
Yeah. This is Ronnie. Just wanted to say thank you as well, Valerie. And you mentioned one particular point which I've written down here, which I found interesting. That you said that there was a part of the brain that can influence balance in terms of transcendent experiences. And I was thinking recently about one of the experiences I had where I was prayed over and fell down and that kind of thing, and the physical sensation, weakness in the knees. Would you say that's kind of explained by that kind of idea as well? Just as a final question, if I can.
That is a great question. I saw someone who was an atheist who had been an evangelist, and he did you see this videotape on YouTube? He said, or where did I see it? He said, I can convince a room of atheists to believe in God and then to disbelieve again. And he went through this process of doing this praying thing and having people fall down through essentially what was a kind of form of hypnotic suggestion. And I don't know exactly I don't understand the process of well enough to know what the mechanisms are, to be honest.
Right. But that was a YouTube video, was it?
I think it was on YouTube.
Ah, okay.
Oh, if you can find that, please send it, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great. But by the way, having your knees buckle and falling down is so easy. That is so easy.
Yeah.
You do not have to. It doesn't take much to have your knees buckle.
Right. Have you also seen the Marjo tapes where he uses that?
No, I haven't actually, no.
So Marjo Gortner was a child evangelist who was basically trained for that role, and then afterwards came out of it back in the 1970s and 80s, and then created a movie, which I don't know that the entire movie is available online, but again, you can find parts of it on YouTube and other places where he demonstrates some of the techniques he used as an evangelist. And part of it does include a similar technique of laying hands on people and having them fall down.
Oh, what was that name again, Valerie?
Marjo. He was named after Mary and Joseph, so it's Marjo Gortner.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Here's Sally. I have been just loving every minute of this. I haven't chimed in because I didn't have any questions about it, but it was really, really excellent. So thank you, Marlene, and thank you, Valerie, and everyone else.
Okay.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I'm glad it was a fit.
Well, this is Susie, and I just wanted to put in my 2 cents here at the end briefly is that, people have all kinds of different personality needs and desires, and what kind of religion we choose or experiences we look for depend in part on that kind of thing. And as far as like what is really true, I think, so many factors play into what we personally, each of us decides is the truth. And most of it cannot be proven either way. So I think our job as adults, or turning into adults, is to move from Fritz Perls said that the goal of life is to move from environmental support to self-support. And so it's our job to figure out what's going to float our particular boat, and then go in that direction. And then, it needs to be and at some point it needs to boil down to firsthand experience. I think Christianity encouraged us to have a second-hand kind of information system. where he said this, she said that, God says this, but we need to just kind of have a real self experience and let other people have their self experiences. And I think just be free to know that we cannot have all the answers and nobody else can. So leave a lot of it in the dark where it is.
Yes. It's amazing because Christianity touts the value of humility, and yet the certitude is so full of there's so much arrogance in it. And I love the humility of what you're saying.
Yeah, and I actually like being an atheist, being certain there is still God. That doesn't speak to me either. I think that's not really useful, or it's not helpful maybe to be so sure of another thing that can't be proven. What about just letting gathering out every kind of information that we can and sitting with it and seeing what it does for us?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I have problems with militant atheists who are like so positive. I mean,
That's also something that can't be known. So I think just to hold things lightly, because realizing that we're human and we don't have to have all the answers is pretty nice place to be.
So anyway, thank you, Valerie. You're very, very kind to be with us today, and appreciate everything that you've shared with us. And thank you, everybody else, for all of your participation too, and your support for each other, as usual.
You're welcome. There's a resource that you all might enjoy, which is that I created a YouTube channel this year called, if you just go to YouTube and type in Trusting Doubt, I think it'll pull it up, Trusting Doubt's channel. And a guy who goes by the name of Truth Search has been working to take some of the cognitive science writing that I've done and put music and video to it, which I think makes it much more powerful. And if you sign up, then as those clips come out, you'll get notice.
Yeah, I think that the Journey Free channel has subscribed to it too. So
I know
okay.
I have.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see you next time, everybody. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye and thanks.